So greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the scheme of things, and welcome. I'm Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer, President of the Affiliated New Thought Network Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you to our incredibly exciting September speaker series with Reverend Alison Benjamin, Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington, Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony, and Reverend Pjae Stanley, our three newest board members. We're so excited that you are here, you all are here, and that you are here to get to know our new board members a little more closely. So thank you for being with us today. Just as a reminder, we record all of our monthly speaker series events. They happen on the fourth or the last Thursday of each month, and they are recorded and posted on our YouTube channel, which is ANTN Members and Friends. So I invite you at any point to go on and listen and view one that you missed, or listen and view one that was especially meaningful to you, because they are there for you to review. Just a couple of housekeeping items or reminders. Our annual conference, we are moving forward April 12th to the 16th, 2021. So next year at beautiful Unity Village. There is information and registration forms on our website, www.newthought.org. So I invite you to go on and take a look and register today. If you haven't already, any questions, feel free to email me in the ANTN office or give me a call. Let's see. All right, so join me in the light for just a moment, if you will, and I will center us for this wonderful experience. So releasing thoughts of yesterday, thoughts of later today or tomorrow, so that we can be fully present in this moment, we allow ourselves to be reminded that there's only one power, presence, mind, life, and intelligence, and that is God. Spirit, the universe, the infinite, the divine, our higher power, whatever we choose to call it. Because there is only one, we are the essence, expression, and experience of that one in every moment of every day. And we come together in gratitude today for this organization that we call the Affiliated New Thought Network, for our wonderful work in the world uniting the New Thought movement, for the opportunity to be together to learn about our wonderful new board members and to have a new thought. So we give thanks for all the wonderful people gathered here today, for this wonderful organization. We come together in the absolute knowingness of perfect peace, of divine right action, and of quiet calm. We give thanks for this time together. I wrap our time in gratitude, love, and light, and together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is my great joy to welcome Reverend Alison Benjamin.
Hello, and thank you, Jerry, Reverend Dr. Jerry, for opening us up with that beautiful prayer. And it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to be your new host of the Affiliated New Thought Speaker Series. And we meet on the last Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And here we are today with three of my favorite people, and you'll understand more about that, what I mean when I say that, as we share what's happening here in ANTN. We just had our annual meeting, and we embraced in three new board members. One is coming back. She's served on our board before, and we have two brand new board members. So we are going to get to know them and have a deeper experience of that, not only who they are, but their energy, and feel their hearts and their love. So it is with great joy that I welcome not only to today's speaker series, but welcome into our hearts and into the co-creative, I like to call it the dream cauldron, the co-creative space That is the Affiliated New Thought Network Board of Directors. We truly are uniting the New Thought movement, and we are doing this through conscious evolution. So you'll hear that theme running through these questions, this conversation over the next 50 minutes. So coming back to the board is Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington. And Michele lives in Phoenix, and she'll tell us more about that. And we've got the beautiful Reverend Pjae, Pamela Stanley, and Pjae lives in Texas. And then we have the very handsome Bill Marchiony, and Bill lives in Pennsylvania, I believe, Philadelphia. And so we're so excited, I know as a board, to be working with you, to have new eyes on things, to shake things up, disrupt things a little bit, and help us reveal what's next for us as a board to do. So I'd like to, first of all, I was so delighted by the questions that, the answers to the questions that Jerry had sent out in one of the emails this week, and many of you may have seen them, but he asked each of these new board members, can you share something that would surprise us about you, something we don't know? And so, Michele, what is it that would most surprise us about you? And Jerry needs to unmute, or yeah, there you go.
I will unmute myself. I was hard pressed to come up with something that would surprise you because I feel like I'm such an open book and I tell everyone everything. But I guess the thing that might surprise you perhaps is that despite growing up as with a very risk averse mother and someone who was very fear-based and didn't want ever to take a risk, and she never wanted me to take a risk, I have actually become quite a risk taker as an adult. And so I've done crazy things like scuba dive way too deep than I had any business diving, and scuba diving with sharks and in a shark cage, and zip lining and walking on fire, and doing all crazy. I don't want to jump out of a plane. We were talking about that earlier. That is not something I want to do. But I guess maybe the surprising thing would be that I'm a risk taker. And then in my life and career, I have taken a lot of risks, including, stepping down from a pulpit of 22 years, not really knowing if I had a net underneath me or not. And of course, finding I do, because of course we always do. But that was a bit of a risk 2 years ago to step away from a vibrant, healthy church. So I'm a risk taker.
Thank you. And how long have you been a member of ANTN?
Oh, Angie, how long have I been a member of ANTN? How old is ANTN? That's a question. Anybody know the answer to that? Jerry, how old is ANTN? Because then I can answer that question.
It's 1992.
26.
26, 27.
28 years old.
28 years.
Oh, there we go. 28.
Okay.
Michele, I hate to interrupt, but you were the first graduated minister of Emerson Institute.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say I honor you for that.
Thank you. I think I joined ANTN in 95. So that's how long?
So you've been with us for a long time.
Long time.
And so your energy on the board will be very anchoring and sort of bridging some of the roots with our new growth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And Bill, how about you? I was super surprised by some of the things that you shared with us. Can you share with our group today some things that maybe we didn't know about you?
You want one of those wacky things off of the list, or do you
Sure.
want one that's actually going to surprise the group?
Whatever's wanting to come through.
Well, the group, you guys had previously said that you wanted to get more details about my great-grandfather invented the ice cream cone. And so I will provide some detail on that. When I was in elementary school, every year they did a standardized test, and there was a story in there that you had to read for comprehension about a guy at the St. Louis World's Fair inventing the ice cream cone by wrapping basically the outside of an ice cream sandwich into a cone, because the ice cream was melting. And that happened in 1903. And I was livid because my great-grandfather had invented the waffle cone, that actually the waffle iron mold that makes the cone, and patented it in 1901. And the Iowa tests, the standard tests we were taking, basically were a rolling series. So there were, some things that you just get when you're in first grade and other things you get when you're, and this one came up every year. And I would bring in the stack of papers that we had from home saying, see, my great-grandfather invented the ice cream cone. And in fact, he did. And it turns out that being a great inventor is possibly not as important as knowing how to defend a patent, because he did a very, very poor job of that. So I am not living off of the ice cream cone fortune at this point.
Thank you. And how long have you been a member of the affiliated New Thought Network?
I became a member as New Thought Philadelphia when we were first incepted, which was 2011. So that's 9 years now. But I was part of the Board of Trustees of the Stewardship Council at the Center for Conscious Living with Carol Lawson, and she was a member early on in the 90s. So I was part of a center that was part of it, but wasn't actually a member myself at that point.
Beautiful. Well, we'll hear more about New Thought Philly and what you're doing there. Okay, Pjae, you need to unmute yourself. And so what is surprising about you? What don't we know about you that might be interesting?
Well, I think, thank you guys for having me today. I think what's interesting, I think most people probably know that I'm a singer and may have heard me sing at our annual event and things like that, but I don't think many people know that I was actually a country western singer when I first started. And it was so interesting how they got started because my husband, Reverend Dr. Jason Stanley, who's also a member of ANTN, was telling me that he thought I'd have a great voice for that. And I ended up having a flat tire on the road one night, and it was right next to a country western bar. And I stepped in and they were just having such a wonderful time dancing, and I was listening to this great music, and I thought, oh my God, this is great music. And so we started down that path with him being my manager and helping me put a band together and all that. So we ended up, I ended up actually opening for the Judds down in Palm Springs. Had dinner with them. I met Winona and the mom, and she's just as beautiful. The mother is as beautiful as you. I mean, she's like a China doll. She's really, really gorgeous. And I met their manager. He was talking about what we could do together. So that was a really amazing highlight of a career that I didn't even think I'd ever have. So I think that might be surprising.
Yeah. Well, your voice is fabulous, and having you sing for us at the last conference retreat was a real gift.
Thank you.
How and when did you come to ANTN? How long have you been a member?
I think because I believe we stepped into CSL San Diego at Maryland Day Hall's church in the early 90s. And I'm really sure right after that, we went to Big Bear. There was a conference there and we attended that. And I believe we joined right then. So it has to be mid to early 1990s that we joined.
Wow.
Yeah, we were as individual. We didn't have a church at the time. We just joined as individual members. We just were so amazed at what you guys were doing, what was going on, and we met Angie and Stella, and we just had to be a part of this group. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but it's fabulous and fabulous music. We had to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, we're super excited to have you step in a more visible way. And I know that your consciousness has been contributing to our evolution as an organization all along. And so I'm going to stick with you, if you don't mind, if you're not too exhausted from all of these questions. So what is it you're doing now? What's your ministry? Where do you serve? What's going on in your ministry?
So, as I said, when we first stepped into New Thought, which is Maryland Day Hall's church in San Diego, we'd never heard of it. We just saw Center for Spiritual Living, and we thought, what does that mean? Because we were actually searching. I I was raised a fundamental Baptist from Texas, and kept looking for a more progressive Baptist church, not realizing that was actually an oxymoron. So Jason said, we need to find something different. And he saw this ad for Center for Spiritual Living. So we stepped in, and the moment we heard and saw Marilyn on the pulpit, I knew I was home. In fact, when I pray, I have a relationship with Spirit, and I just call him George. It's just, for whatever reason, that's just the name. And I said, George, look, if this is where I'm supposed to be, because it was so against how I was raised, and the whole, be aware of, or be careful of false prophets and this and that. And of course, this is a blonde woman with blue eyes. I'm like, what does she know about my background? But I said, listen, George, you need to let me know right now, because I feel like I'm home. If this is like a false prophet, let me know now, because otherwise this is home. And so that's where it was. But I never intended to be a minister. I just was so thirsty for the knowledge that you all had and the things that you were doing. We just jumped right into classes, into everything that was available to us. We jumped right in. So when we moved back, we were living in Asia, and we moved back to Texas. We decided at that time to separate, which is fine. It was amicable. And I moved to Dallas. We had mutual friends who had been the ministers of the Unity Church it was a Unity Church, Unity Center, Spiritual Center in Fort Worth, and they were ready to retire, Glenn and Pat Moore. And they said, listen, girl, you've moved up here, you're back in the country, you have everything it takes, you've been a minister for I don't know how long, and it is time for you to step up. So I said, okay. So I talked to George again, and I said, is this mine to do? Because it was never an intention of mine to take on a church, but I knew the members. It's a very loving place. The moment you step in, you feel covered in their love and their openness and their acceptance. And so I knew who they were. And when I spoke with George, he said, yeah, this is for you now. And so I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know where it's going, but I know I'm enjoying it. I have a vision we have a vision together of just creating a space for like minds to be around their tribe. And that's what we're doing. And we're currently moving into a new space, and everyone's excited about that. So it's been a lovely journey. I've been there for 2 years now, and it's been a lovely growth journey for me. And I think a wonderful journey for all of us that are involved.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a blessing to have followed George's I hate to say advice, but that prompting, that invitation maybe. So Bill, how about you? What's your work currently? Your ministry? Where and how do you show up in the world?
Well, let's see. The question before, where am I? If you're in California, I'm in Philadelphia. If you're in the Philadelphia area, I'm in Ardmore, PA, and Philadelphia is about 1.5 miles down that way. The work is New Thought Philadelphia. That's the one that I'm anchored in. I had been working a full-time day job in technology up through last December. And then it became clear that it was time to devote myself to ministry full-time. I have a partner, co-spiritual director and founder of New Thought Philly's Dave Schbach, who you've all met. And so I'm working just on ministry and the other stuff that I've got going on in addition to New Thought Philadelphia. And pandemic hits and all sorts of other things. And so the evolution that's been going on is that Dave is taking a leave of absence now. So I am the only spiritual director at New Thought Philadelphia, at least through the end of the year. So that's a new role for me to get pushed into. Simultaneously, in my background, I was all about connecting different spiritual communities and groups together. I thought it was going to be a marketing thing. When it was initially, that was the initial call was to go do that. It was Barbara Marks Hubbard who said, go find out what it is that you're doing to bring groups together and, or to share this teaching. And then I found myself leading a teen group and being really good as a teen advisor. So I built, it was CSL at the time, built a regional teen program that included 15 centers from, all up and down the East Coast, from Washington, D.C. to Rhode Island, with 150 participants. And they're all connecting together, and they didn't care that this one was CSL and this one was ANTN and this one was Unity, because the kids all got it. And they started calling me Reverend Bill. I was like, nah, I'm not going to be a minister. But then the calling became obvious, so I did that. And now I find myself being available as a resource to other centers. There's a CSL in Wilmington, Delaware, that has been wanting to have a teen program forever, and they've got teens, but they don't have an advisor who's able to do that. So I've stepped in and am running the teen program at Center for Spiritual Living, Delaware. And then there's another group in Wilmington that doesn't have ministers, and they wanted to teach a practitioner class, and all the practitioners, the seasoned practitioners who had been teaching, have retired or moved away. So they recruited me to teach their practitioner class. So we're doing that together, and doing that in the midst of a pandemic. So we took the opportunity, working with Angie, to basically offer it up to anybody, anywhere, because we're going to do the entire class either online or online and in-person hybrid, but we're going to have an online piece of it. And that class started a couple of weeks ago. There's 12 students in it, including one who travels quite a bit for work, but can be on in the class. And that he was in my class the last time he took it, and had to drop out because the incompatibilities with the technology. So another one in Massachusetts who says, this is exactly what I've been looking for. She was originally from Delaware, but she moved, and there's nothing available in Massachusetts. So it's basically just me, getting invitations and saying yes. So that's basically what I've been doing, and getting wonderful support with all sorts of other folks. I have no idea what I'm doing. I am saying yes to Spirit and offering up whatever it is that people are seeking.
Beautiful. Thank you. It's so enlightening. It's so mind expanding to hear from you and Pjae, for me and for all of us here, to see how you are listening to Spirit, how you are bringing your unique piece into the world under the New Thought umbrella. I know it's very helpful, hearing each other's stories, our journeys is so rich and so nourishing. So thank you for sharing that. Michele, Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington, how are you showing up these days? What's going on in your world? How are you helping this evolution of consciousness occur on this planet as a fearless woman?
Well, as I mentioned before, and most, if not all of you know, I was the minister of a ANTN Center for 22 years. And it's interesting because toward probably a year prior to my stepping down, I was starting to have thoughts about maybe it's time to not do this anymore. 22 years is a little bit of a long time. I know some of you have done it longer, but it's a long time, and I was getting tired. But I wasn't thinking about leaving. And whenever anyone would ask me about, when do you think you might retire? My answer would be, oh, probably about 5 years. And my husband would be in the background, no, not that long, not that long, sooner than that, he would always say. But really, I said about 5 years. And then he, as many, if not all of you know, he passed away 2+ years ago. And after he passed, it was just a couple of months, and he was so involved in the church. He was just not only involved in the church, he was involved with me, and he was such an incredible support system for me. So I could, give 24/7, 7 days a week to ministry. He was there to support me in whatever I needed. And so that, with the grief of him leaving the planet, with my thought that maybe it was time for me to leave this church anyway, I did what people don't do, which is don't make any major decisions for a year after a big loss. And after at 2 months, I knew that I was done with ministry. And it took another couple months for me to actually leave. But in October of that year, which was October of 2018, I stepped down. And I have a lot of people ask, and I have to be careful about how I answer this depending on who's asking me, because I've had a lot of former congregants ask me, do you miss it? Do you miss it? Do you miss it? And I know they want me to say yes, but my answer is no, not at all. I don't miss it at all. Did it? It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was difficult. It was soul fulfilling. I did a lot of good work, and I'm so sure that I'm complete. So I don't miss it one tiny bit. I even was talking to a colleague yesterday who said, by the way, do you come speak? Do you come speak for ministers? And I said, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm really done. But before I left the ministry, I had started doing something that is what I'm doing now full time. I had gotten trained in a system, if you will, of thought called the Art of Feminine Presence. And it actually could be called the Art of Masculine Presence too, but it's really about connecting with, I call it our divine essence. And for me, it's the feminine essence. For others, it's the masculine essence. It's not necessarily male, female, but mostly women resonate with feminine and mostly men resonate with masculine. It's really connecting with that power center in our bodies, which is the divine in us, expressing itself as the feminine or as the masculine. And what does that really mean? And how do I really tap into it and anchor it? So this work to me absolutely goes hand in hand, just like fits like a glove to New Thought. And I'm working with tons of women across the country, some of whom are in New Thought, some are not. So I get to give New Thought principles to people who've never heard of it before, in a subtle way, without cramming religion down their throat, but by just offering who I am, because I am a religious scientist and always will be, and I can't not be that. So I mentor people. I have about 25 mentoring clients I work one-on-one with. I teach classes, which had been in person, but with COVID, they've all gone on to Zoom. And like Reverend Bill was saying a minute ago, he's reaching out to people beyond where he normally would have reached with that practitioner class. I'm able to do the same thing with my Art of Feminine Presence classes. I've got women all across the country now who are enrolled in my classes, which is really cool. I will always do at least one online class, even when we can come back and be together again in person. So I do those. And then I offer other classes. I love one of my zones of genius. If you guys know of Gay Hendricks' work, one of my zones of genius is creating and delivering curriculum. I love that. And so I've written a lot of classes over the course of ministry, and I retained the rights to them. I made sure I retained the rights. The church kept them too, but so did I. So I have other classes that I offer, a money class, a speaking class, a relationship class. So I do those online as well. And I'm also a master teacher of this Art of Feminine Presence. So that means I can teach teachers. And so I have a teacher training coming up soon. So that's keeping me really, really busy. I work out of my home. I rented an office space right before the pandemic. One might say that was rather foolish, but Spirit said, absolutely, this is the right time. This is the right space. Rent it. And it's gorgeous. I love it. And I'm actually having my first small group there on Saturday. We haven't really met there at all. But I'm having my first small women's group there on Saturday, and I'm so excited to have that happen. So that's kind of me.
Lovely. You shared some photographs of that space with me. It truly is a dare I say, goddess sanctuary. I'm not excluding the male energy, but it definitely has that goddess vibe. So knowing that you've all been a part of ANTN for so many years, I can't do the math to count up how many years together you've been a member, but I'm imagining that over the course of your time with ANTN, the relationships you've built and the conference retreats you've attended and the centers you've visited or worked or served at, there's been opportunity for you to be served by Anton. So my question for each of you is, and I'll let whoever's feeling spirit nudge them to answer first. How has Anton served you? What has Anton brought to your life? And the list is probably longer than we have time to hear, but I'd love to hear one or two things that Anton means to you. Michele, raising her hand.
Zoom protocol, right? Yeah, so I could say so many things, but I'll say three things. The first one is, and I kind of had a feeling like Pjae was describing when she walked into Marilyn's church. I felt that too, by the way, when I first walked into a religious science church. But when I walked into Anton at Big Bear for the very first time, didn't know anybody, brand new, I mean, seriously, brand new minister, which by the way was 1994, not 95. I was just thinking about that. Ari Smith Courts, some of you remember Ari, walked up to me and hugged me like I was her sister that she hadn't seen forever, but I'd never met this woman. And for me, that hug is what Anton is. It's like this warm embrace of family that I didn't know I had. And I've always felt that way. I will always feel that way. So that's one, is a family. It's a warm hug whenever I'm in your presence and in the presence of this beautiful tribe. And number two, as a new minister, a brand new minister of a very young church, when I started, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so the support that I got from Angie, from the leaders of Anton at the time, was invaluable. I called people constantly and got advice, forms, counsel, wisdom, suggestions, curriculum. So that was incredibly amazing. And then the third thing is that as I then developed as a minister and grew and kind of started knowing what I was doing, at least a little bit, I got the opportunity, which served me beautifully, to give back and to be one that people would call for my wisdom. And that's served and continues to serve. And I mean, I still get help and support from all of you and from Anton, but I also am very served by being able to give back. So those are my three things.
Thank you. Oh, Bill.
When I first came to Anton, the first conference, we had done our ministerial training at a local CSL. And that was right when those organizations were coming back together. There was an immense amount of politics going on, and we kind of got politicsed out of the organization. So we showed up at that first conference in Scottsdale with a pretty good case of PTSD, and we were just getting our stuff, and whoever it was that the registration did, oh, we don't do politics here, and it was just, and that has been true. We don't do politics here. It's all about what consciousness says. It's all about loving and supporting each other and the resources being available. I love talking to Angie because he doesn't even wait for the question to be done before he's saying yes. Just so supportive and so enthusiastic. And the resources are there in so many different ways to connect with other ministers and with other communities. And I had the opportunity to speak at fellow centers when I'm traveling, and we had Jerry come in and do a thing with us in Philly at one point. And so it's just wonderful to have that richness and the connections going on. And the conference is a treat. It's a treat to be able to get together and connect and go deep with the people who are around. I had a great experience at the conference last year. Shortly before the conference, one of the people at the software company where I was working, the kid who was basically figuring out how everything is going to be configured for clients, gave notice. And in their infinite wisdom, they decided that the way to have his job get done going forward, because they didn't have a backup for him, was to have me do his job in addition to doing my job. And so I got to the conference not knowing what I was going to do in my career, and whether I should try and go along with this or change something, try and hijack more money out of them, what sort of burnout and wear and tear it was going to take. So at the conference, I asked Frank Zumola, I said, can I borrow you for 20 minutes? And in a 20-minute practitioner session, he translated what I was saying into such an obvious conclusion that it was clear that I needed to stop doing that and do something else. And the resources are available. That's for me, that's the magical part of ANTN, is the support and the love and the insistence on always turning to consciousness. That just makes all the difference.
Lovely. Thank you, Bill.
Well,
And Pjae.
well, all I can do is mimic and mirror the very same things that Bill and Michele talked about. It is absolutely the support. That whatever you need, whether you've been in ministry for a long time, which I have been now, or whether you were just starting out, which we were when we first started, and the resource, the actual resources for classes, for what to do, for what to take, for how to pray, just as simple as how to pray, has always been there, as well as the people who are like family to me. One of the reasons I think a lot of people don't really know, didn't know and don't know me and don't know that I've been around a long time is because my husband and I traveled a lot. We lived for 11 years in Asia. And even though that time we lived there, anywhere we were, we've always been a part of ANTN and always reached out to Angie. So many places that I was in, there was no even American church, let alone a New Thought church or a New Thought center. And so we were constantly creating some sort of a group, some sort of a home thing that we could continue what we needed to have. We needed to have our spiritual growth and education and just a tribe around us wherever we went. And so to reach out to ANTN, to Angie, to say, hey, we need some courses, we need some classes, we need some policies. What do you think? How can we move this along? And ANTN has always been there for everything that we need so we could continue whatever our journey was, wherever the journey took us. And so I'm just so grateful to ANTN. When we first started, as Bill said, we weren't a part of any official group, and so we needed that. And every church, or my husband has also been a minister of several churches. This is my first one, but any church we belonged to, that was absolutely necessary that the church, in order for us to take the job, that the church was an ANTN church, because that's our foundation, our home, and our family. And anytime I come to, when I'm in the United States and come to an annual retreat, we're calling it retreat now, but a conference retreat, it's like coming home to a family reunion, and people that I didn't even remember me and go, oh, Pjae, yes, yes. And so it's a grounding, it's a foundation. It's everything you're ever going to need on a spiritual journey. And I thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Pjae. Well, we're so glad that you're here on American soil, and we get to actually see you in person. It's delightful to come together at our retreat conference, and so we've got to know you over the last couple of years, and it's been a real blessing for us as an organization. So the three of you have been, you've listened to a call, you've accepted an invitation to be a part of the ANTN Board of Directors at this time, this auspicious time, 2020. I think of 2020 vision, which I need glasses in order to have. Many of us do. This is an interesting time with COVID, with quarantine, with social distancing, with all the things that have come up over the last 6-7 months because of this, and this sort of turning of the decade, if you will, and you jumping onto the board at this time. And we just came up with a new vision and a new mission. And so I'm interested to know, given that we have this new vision statement, which is uniting the New Thought movement. Now, if that isn't like an overarching grand vision, I don't know what is. So uniting the New Thought movement, and then we talk about conscious evolution. And in the past, all of you have heard that consciousness or spirit is our sole authority. So knowing that about ANTN, knowing that we're here on a threshold, we've got a new vision, we've got a new mission to really bring the community together so that we might serve and support our members and their communities and friends in a even more tangible way. What is it that you see yourself bringing? Like what's going to be your piece here on the board? And maybe I don't want to be so sort of specific with board, but maybe it's just ANTN in general. What's yours to bring at this most auspicious time to the affiliated New Thought Network? Jump in whenever you.
One of the
Go ahead,
things,
Pjae.
I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but what's on my heart to say is that I love with groups. And the reason why I love it so much is because that whole idea that we have in New Thought of knowing that we're connected and that the divine is in each one of us and that we're here for a purpose and a reason, to be involved in a group and to see what that purpose and reason is and how it shows up, to see other people's gifts and to see them shine, being able to utilize their gifts, and certainly in service to a group that has such an auspicious and a wide mission and vision, to be able to be a part of that. And I think that what I bring to the table and what is so loving for me is to share that and to encourage people to use their gifts, to see that. I have an ability to see someone else's abilities and skills when they're not exactly sure that they have them, just like others hold me in the light. To be able to hold someone in the light and see their vision and their gifts shine and spread is a powerful thing for me. And I'm looking forward to doing that not only on the board, but throughout the membership.
Thank you, Pjae.
I'll speak
Yeah.
up. Uniting the New Thought movement, not exactly sure what that means, but in a lot of ways, those are the best to deal with, because if we think we know what we're going to do or how we're going to do it, when we come up with a vision or a mission, it can limit it. So for me, part of it is to find out what that looks like, and then be present as the movement unites. And the different people in the New Thought movement who are currently not united, they may or may not know that they're not united, and they may or may not think that they want to be united. So the first thing we get to do is find out who we are and what we're about, and we get to go through that cycle. And at every turn, I find that skills that I acquired through my lifetime that I figured would never be useful for anything come back around. I've been a business process consultant helping people in creative businesses reinvent their workflows. I mean, when desktop publishing came along, nobody knew how to do it. And I was the consultant that you hired from out of town to figure out how you're going to do the stuff you used to do to produce the LL Bean catalog, but use this new desktop technology. So we figured it out then and went through the process. And I've invented 2 or 3 different industries and saw the expiration of several others. Like I worked on AM radio for a while. That's not a thing pretty much anymore. And so to be part of a revolutionary, evolutionary process is really exciting. And I don't know exactly what it looks like. And that's actually, for me, that's the most exciting part, because I don't have 2 different parts of my life anymore. I don't have a work life and a spiritual life. It's a ministry, a spiritual calling, and it's all gets to be combined together. Even though I can still take all of the stuff that I learned at NYU Film School and now use it to build a home TV studio so that I can do Zoom calls and classes and recordings and all the rest of it. And I never thought I was going to need that stuff again. So it's using the gifts that are there.
Great, thanks. Michele.
So from a head space, logical space, intellectual space, I have no idea. um, this is what I will tell you. When I was asked to be on the board, and I as Ali mentioned, I served on the board many years ago. And I've been asked periodically over the years to serve again. And I was always nope, 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 nope. And when I was asked this time, my head said nope. And my body, my soul, my gut said yes. And so I had a little debate for a while with those two parts of me. But I absolutely believe in listening to not what my head says, but what my intuition says. Because I know that my intuition never has or will steer me wrong. And my full intuition said, now is the time. I said that before knowing the new vision, before knowing the new direction, if you will, or the new, profound and gigantic and beautiful and scary and unknown intention of uniting the New Thought movement. Like, Bill, what does that even mean? I don't know. My head doesn't know. But my heart, my gut, my soul said, this is the time, Michele, for you to step back into leadership of this organization that I love so much and share what gifts I have and can bring to the table, share what consciousness I can bring to the table, share what skills I have, and support in the highest way that I can. So I know that is not specific at all, but that's what I got. I am here to serve in the best and highest way that I can and support this new vision of ANTN, support the high vision of uniting the New Thought movement, and support that vision as it means uniting us as a spiritual community, as the ANTN family, uniting us even more and even deeper and even greater in this, kind of crazy time that we're living in right now. So yeah, I think that's my answer to that question.
Beautiful. I was debating on whether to invite others to ask you questions, and I decided not to do that. So if anyone does have any burning questions for these three divine beings, if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat, then we might be able to send those questions on to them. What I'd like to invite each of you to share with us before we close is there anything else? Is Spirit wanting something else to be said out loud at this particular moment? Is there anything else?
I
Go
don't
ahead, Pjae.
know necessarily, but the things that we've been saying about, we don't exactly know what that means, uniting the New Thought movement. But when I first got involved and I was in a Science of Mind CSL center, I never heard of unity. I never heard of anything else. I didn't know. And when we were called to leave San Diego and go to Texas, I was frightened. I thought, oh my God, no! I just found this group. What am I going to do? And then stepped into to Waco, Texas, and found just 20 miles. Well, actually, in Waco, there was a Unity church, but I didn't know that either. I didn't discover it until I moved about 30 miles up and bought a cabin on the lake, and there was actually a Unity Church of Lake Whitney. But there was a split between. What I was finding was there was a split between the ideas of what Science of Mind was and what Unity was, and my having no background in it, I just thought, well, they're the same, except that there's just who the leadership was and just how they explain it. And so this idea of uniting the New Thought movement resonates with me because they're the same. They have the same oneness about them, just because it started in a different direction, and so the wording is different. But the thought is the same. So I think it's absolutely time for this idea that we are united and come together as one is 2020 vision. So thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll
Bill.
speak. And that was beautiful. I went to a church growth seminar with Gary Simons, who's a Unity guy, and there were some divine science people there and some religious science people there and some unity people there. And he sort of flippantly said that the difference between religious science and unity is that religious science has really good music and unity has Jesus Christ. And it's a flippant, funny way of putting it. And since then, letting my guard down and just, being open to what's divine science about. We have so much more in common than we have that separates us. And there's so much richness that each of us gets from other spiritual traditions. If we're looking for separation, we can find it. But if we're looking for commonality, we can find that too. And that, to my way of thinking, lets us build ourselves and each other up. And it becomes a wonderful experience. One other thing that I want to mention as an invitation, when the lockdown started back in March, I started doing online, basically Zoom call meditations, and they're twice a day, and they're very much my style. It's a bit of conversation, some humor, a small fun group gets together on Zoom. Somebody comes up with the question or an issue, and I have the gift of being able to turn that into a story and a metaphor and then make a meditation out of that. And the whole process takes 10 or 15 minutes. And I've had the opportunity for some of the folks, my fellow ministers in ANTN to join those. And I just wanted to open that up to everybody because that's just another example of how we can collaborate and build something that's bigger than the individual parts. And I'm all about that.
Bill, would you put that in the chat so we would know how to grab that, how we could get on the Zoom call?
Yep. I'll give you the link to the page on the New Thought Philly website, which is probably the easiest way to find it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Pjae, for asking. And Reverend Michele.
So I'm called to say that I have also said yes, full body yes, brain not so much, but the rest of me yes, to being the treasurer of ANTN. And as the treasurer of ANTN, my desire, my vision for that role and for all of us is, of course, that ANTN be financially vibrant and healthy and able to share our abundance and our overflowing with other, whatever that looks like, and knowing that God is our source, knowing that completely, and that there are many, many, many channels to that one source. Our centers and our members are very much part of that channel flow system. And so making sure that our members are financially healthy. And this is a difficult time for churches. I am very aware of that, and frankly, so happy that I'm very selfishly happy that I'm not trying to do that right now, like many of you are. My heart goes out to you who are in churches right now. This is a difficult time. So as the lead in the treasurership of ANTN, I don't know how to do this, but it's not my job to know the how, just the what, is I really want to have a hand in supporting however we can as an organization, the financial viability, well-being, thriving of our membership.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that intention. I'm really looking forward to having your grounded, prosperous, abundant energy anchoring us. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you, Michele and Pjae and Bill. Thank you so much for opening up, for being vulnerable, for sharing your journey through ANTN and sharing your visions with us. We can each hold those in our hearts and in our minds. So why don't we do that now? Why don't we anchor this whole conversation, this whole movement in consciousness with an activation, with a prayer, closing the outer eyes and tuning within and hearing that one song, that universal song, the soundtrack to our very physical earth walk. It is God expressing itself through all we hear and see and taste and touch and feel and know. And as we anchor ourselves in our omniscience, in our omnipotence, in our omnipresence, we simply relax and feel the warm embrace of this beloved ANTN community. Feeling the love, feeling the support, the inspiration, the friendship, the caring, the wisdom, the excitement, the creativity that comes forth through all that we bring into this world together as we co-create this community, as we unite the New Thought movement, as we stand on the very green growing edge of conscious evolution, personally and collectively. I trust and know for each of us that ANTN not only is a loving support, but a platform, a springboard for us to take that next step, to embrace our wings and fly in our lives, in our ministries, in our conscious evolution. May we all say yes to that which is seeking to become who and what we truly are by means of this physical body, this mind, this heart, as we wholeheartedly say yes to ourselves and to ANTN and to New Thought and to humanity. We, with great confidence and faith and a deep knowing, say thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit of life, great mystery. And I release these prayers with such love for this ANTN community, for all that we are becoming. I release it into the law, knowing that it is done. And please join me together in saying, and so it is. Thank you. Namaste. Reverend Jerry?